Shavasana, or any way, shape, form of Shavasana that you want to take, is a perfect way to start, because I've got some words that I want to read to you from David Goggins' book called Can't Hurt Me. Sorry if you've heard me read from this book before. I haven't read this yet, but it's a really good book. I do highly recommend it. He says, or he writes, the Buddha famously said that life is suffering. I'm not a Buddhist, but I know what he meant, and so do you. To exist in this world, we must contend with humiliation, broken dreams, sadness, and loss. That's just nature. Each specific life comes with its own personalised portion of pain. It's coming for you. You can't stop it, and you know it. In response, most of us are programmed to seek comfort as a way to numb it all out and cushion the blows. We carve out safe spaces, we consume media that confirms our beliefs, we take up hobbies aligned with our talents, we try to spend as little time as possible doing the tasks we loathe, and that makes us soft. We live a life defined by the limits we imagine and desire for ourselves because it's comfortable as hell in that box. Not just for us, but for our closest family and friends, the limits we create and accept become the lens through which they see us, through which they love and appreciate us. But for some, those limits start to feel like bondage. And when we least expect it, our imagination jumps those walls and hunts down dreams that in the immediate aftermath feel attainable, because most dreams are. We are inspired to make changes little by little, and it hurts. Breaking the shackles and stretching beyond our own perceived limits takes hard work, oftentimes physical work, and when you put yourself on the line, self-doubt and pain will greet you with a stinging combination that will buckle your knees. Most people who are merely inspired or motivated will quit at that point, and upon their return, their cells will feel that much smaller, their shackles even tighter. The few who remain outside their walls will encounter even more pain and much more doubt, courtesy of those who we thought were our biggest fans. But it's not the external voice that will break you down. It's what you tell yourself that matters. The most important conversations you'll ever have are those ones you'll have with yourself. You wake up with them, you walk around with them, you go to bed with them, and eventually you act on them, whether they're good or bad. We are all our own worst haters and doubters, because self-doubt is a natural reaction to any bold attempt to change your life for the better. You can't stop it from blooming in your brain, but you can neutralize it. And all the other external chatter by asking, what if? What if is an exquisite FU to anyone who has ever doubted your greatness or stood in your way. It silences negativity. It's a reminder that you don't really know what you're capable of until you put everything you've got on the line. It makes the impossible feel at least a little more possible. What if is the power and permission to face down your darkest demons, your very worst memories, and accept them as part of your history. If and when you do that, you'll be able to use them as fuel to envision the most audacious, outrageous achievement and go get it. Let me repeat one powerful paragraph in his words. It's not the external voice that will break you. It's what you tell yourself that matters. The most important conversations you'll ever have are the ones you have with yourself. You wake up with them, you walk around with them, you go to bed with them, and eventually you act on them, whether they're good or bad. Hamstring hammock. We're going to take this into a twist afterwards, So if you're going to take your right leg in hamstring hammock first, bring your bolster to your left-hand side and vice versa. So strap on a big loop around the ball of your foot. The other end of the loop goes behind your head. Adjust the strap as necessary, and then your opposite leg can either go long or you can keep it bent up. If you have a weight bag, you might like to place the weight bag on the thigh. Once you're in sort of that hammock version, let the weight of your head take the end of the strap, and then just wherever your arms are comfortable, close down your eyes. Most important conversations we'll ever have, the ones that we're constantly having with ourselves, whether we realize it or not, whether we acknowledge or not, whether we choose to listen or not. Use this time, this practice, this quiet space to listen. To acknowledge the most powerful, potent conversation. It's often a misconception that, when you have or sit for a formal meditation practice, that the idea is to stop our thoughts completely. But in fact, initially, it's about watching them, witnessing them, acknowledging them, sitting with them. And eventually, over time and practice, they become fewer and fewer. So you do have those moments and pockets of freedom. But to start, we watch. The most important conversation. 3 more breaths, long and slow. This will take us into that twist. So there's options for this twist. So you can let the strap go completely and just guide the right leg over to the bolster. Or maybe you can keep the strap around the foot, take it off from around the head, and keep the leg long and guide it over towards the bolster. Or twisted roots is the other option. Take the strap off, cross the right leg on top of your left, and then drop the knees over to the bolster on your left-hand side. You don't have to use the bolster if you don't want to, for whatever shape you're choosing to make for your twist. See if you can, as much as you can, anchor down that right shoulder. If it's the left side that your knees are twisting to. And then finish off the rotation with the neck as well. For a lot of us, watching the conversation that's going on in our head is really tough because it's so quick, so fast and so consuming. We get caught up in it. Instead of watching it, we're in the stories or in the dramas. And so that's where all the yogic techniques come into play, just following the breath. Long and slow, in through the nose, out through the nose. Because the breath and mind correlation is intimate. If you slow one down, the other follows. And then as the breath becomes long and slow, the mind starts to quieten a little bit, and then watching those thoughts pop up isn't so daunting or challenging because it's not so quick and consuming. It's very enlightening when you start to watch the conversations in your head. That practice of witnessing, our eternal witness, Shakshin. Turns the light on, clarifies those conversations, what are useful and what are not. We are our own biggest critics, biggest haters, biggest doubters. It's just part of being human. Getting clear and intimate with the most important conversations in your life, the ones you have with yourself. Here's a doorway to accessing so much more potential and freedom. 3 more breaths. Unravel this back to center. Let your spine come back to neutral for a good 3 to 5 breaths before you set up for your hamstring hammock on the other side. Only when you feel ready, then set up your other side for your hamstring hammock. Now you might like to take a bolster over before you set up, or no big deal, do it later. Whenever I catch that negative conversation inside my own head, I figure there's enough negativity, enough suffering in the world. I don't need to contribute to it. Conversations are happening all the time. And we get to choose. Through the practices and techniques of yoga, we get to impact and influence those conversations directly. It starts with awareness of them. In that witness state. breaths. Replicate that same shape of the twist that you did on the first side. So if you took the leg long with the strap, then do that. If you did twisted roots, then cross the left leg on top of the right and take that shape. Or maybe just a stock standard left knee over towards the right. Anchor the shoulder, the opposite shoulder, as much as you can, and finish off the rotation through the neck. Shine that spotlight onto those conversations. Quite often it can bring stuff up that we don't like to see or don't like to admit to ourselves. And so for a lot of people, that's kind of where the work stops. That's what David Goggins is talking about. We're hardwired to stay within our comfort zones, to stay within our little boxes, limiting boxes. Yoga's all about doing the work, physically, obviously with the poses and asana, but so much more importantly, so much more potent is what's going on internally. Follow 5 more breaths, long and slow. going to unravel onto your back just to neutralise the spine. Whatever that looks like. Quite often we gravitate to the things that we like to do, things that we're comfortable in, rather than the things that, really move us outside of our comfort zones. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there is definitely a lot more growth in the things that make us a bit uncomfortable. So we're going to do a myofascial release that for most of us is not necessarily comfortable. So you just need one ball, but grab both of them because the other one's going to be optional. The other thing that you may need is your block. So place that sort of towards your head because you're going to use that as a bit of a pillow. So you're going to roll over onto your left-hand side. We're going to set up our TFL-ITB sort of glute-min release. With rolling on your left-hand side, you're going to look up at your right hip, and at the apex of the hip, at the very highest point, place the ball. Then roll it forward and slightly up towards your face, and you'll feel a bit of a divot of flesh there. That's where the ball's going to massage. So wedge it in there, don't lose that spot, and then roll over onto your right-hand side, and you'll find that spot. And if it takes your breath away, you're in the right spot. If it doesn't, then you might move it around a little bit until you find the right spot, or even just the right spot for you. Now, the second ball and block is up to you. So you can place the ball on top of the block and then your face on top of the ball right at your jawline. Because quite often when we come into uncomfortable poses or even uncomfortable situations, our jaws tension. If placing the ball at your jawline is not conducive for you today, or just not your jam, then you can do your temple or around your temple area. You don't have to do anything. You can just work on the hip, the outer hip. Once you find a spot, if you're not experiencing too much sensation, so if you're at your edge, then I would say just stay and breathe, and especially every out breath, see if you can soften. But if you feel like that's feeling all right, you can do a little rock, sort of rocking your hips forward and back, and that'll massage the tissues out a little bit. It'll just sort of push the tissues back and forth. You can even push your foot into the floor. If you've got your left foot sort of towards the floor or flat on the floor, if you kind of push the foot into the floor, it'll rock the ball up and down. And whatever you do with the hip, generally the ball that's on your face will do the same. If you feel any referral sensations, so quite often when my outer hip's tight, it travels into my lower back. And for a lot of people, it can travel down the leg into our knees. That's good. It means you're impacting the body so much further. I've got about another 30 seconds here. Having said that, as always, if you know that this is really benefiting you and you need a bit more time here, then Don't feel like you need to be in a rush to come out of it. You can come out of it whenever you're ready and make your way over to the other side to catch up to us. So when you're ready, we've got to set it up the same way. So you're to come off this side, take the ball out from underneath, and then you're going to roll back onto that right side to set up the left. So the ball, if you look down towards that left hip, right at the apex of the top part of the hip, roll it forward and up towards your face, just slightly, like a few centimetres. Find that divot of flesh and then roll back over onto your left. Get that spot there first for the ball in the hip, and then if you're wanting to add the up ball into your face, into your jaw or your temple, then you can bring that in. Adding those little rocking hips forward and back, pushing the foot into the floor and feel that rocking up and down. And you've got about 30 seconds. Slowly, as you're ready, pop the balls off to the side and then lay flat on your back. And your block's there, so may as well utilise it. We'll do a short occipital release. Just for about 2 minutes. Making sure the block's on the medium level. Your chin slightly tucked down to your chest. So where the top of your neck meets your skull, the corner of the block is massaging all those really deep tissue fibres. Just 3 more breaths. Our final pose is going to be soup to butter, soles of feet together, knees wide, but with the hips lifted by the bolster. So bring your block off to the side now, you don't need that. You might like some weight bags if you have them handy for hips, upper thighs, but bring your feet flat to the floor, lift your hips up and slide the bolster in underneath. Once your bolster's got the weight of your hips, then let your knees fall out wide, bringing the soles of your feet together. Whether you bring in weight bags or not, up to you. Maybe you just let gravity do the work. Arms wherever's comfortable. If you've got an eye pillow handy, you might like to play, or a towel even, you might like to place that over your eyes. Most of us are programmed to seek comfort as a way to numb it all out and cushion the blows. We carve out safe spaces. We consume media that confirms our beliefs. We take up hobbies aligned with our talents. We try to spend as little time as possible doing the tasks we loathe. That makes us soft. We live in a life defined by the limits we imagine and desire for ourselves because it's comfortable. It's comfortable in that box. Not just for us, but for our closest family and friends. The limits we create and accept become the lens through which they see us, through which they love and appreciate us. But for some, those limits start to feel like bondage, and when we least expect it, our imagination jumps those walls, hunts down dreams that in the immediate aftermath feel attainable, because most dreams are. We are inspired to make changes little by little, and it hurts. Breaking the shackles and stretching beyond our own perceived limits takes hard work. When you put yourself on the line, self-doubt and pain will greet you with a stinging combination that can buckle you at your knees. It's not the external voice that will break you down. It's what you tell yourself that matters. The most important conversations you'll ever have are the ones you'll have with yourself. You wake up with them, you walk around with them, you go to bed with them, and eventually you act them out, whether they're good or bad. We are all our own worst haters and doubters, because self-doubt is a natural reaction to any bold attempt to change your life for the better. You can't stop it from blooming in your brain, but you can neutralize it and all other external chatter by asking, what if? What if is an exquisite FU to anyone who has ever doubted your greatness or stood in your way, including yourself. It silences negativity. It's a reminder that you don't really know what you're capable of until you put everything you've got on the line. It makes the impossible feel at least a little more possible. What if is the power and permission to face down your darkest demons, your very worst memories, and accept them as part of your history. If and when you do that, you'll be able to use them as fuel to envision the most audacious, outrageous achievement and go get it. remind yourself often to tap into that witness state. Watch the conversations. Become witness to the conversations. Acknowledge them. Light them up. Clarify. The most important conversations we'll ever have are the ones we have with ourselves. Slowly come out of this, so lift your knees up, place your feet flat to the floor, just so you can use the leg strength to lift your hips, slide the bolster out in front, and then bring your hips back down onto the floor. And then you're very gently and slowly going to help yourself up to a comfortable seated position, so you can roll over onto a side from there and then peel yourself up, or just kind of help yourself up. Whatever you do, do it slowly. If you needed to open your eyes, then close them again once you are in a comfortable seat, and bring your palms together at heart center, Anjali Mudra. And close our blissful balance practice off with a powerful, potent vibration of Om. So take a deep breath in. Thumbs to third eye center, we bow our heads. That light of awareness within me honors the same light of awareness that exists within you. When we're in the light together, we are one. Together we say Namaste. Namaste.